I'm Dennis Anderson along with Julie Zenner. Here's what's coming up on Almanac North.
With the election less than 2 weeks away, Republican Jeff Johnson is here to talk about his campaign to be Minnesota's next governor.
In the St. Louis County Board race, there is one open seat, District 4, in the northern half of the county. The candidates in that race face off in the studio tonight.
And we'll have the latest business news and a news file story from 25 years ago.
Don't go away. Almanac North is next. Hello and welcome to Almanac North. Thanks for watching. And Julie, we are enjoying some beautiful fall weather this week.
Absolutely gorgeous, and it sounds like it might last over the weekend.
67 today, maybe snow flurries Tuesday. It changes quickly.
Don't talk about that.
Lots of candidates tonight. Let's get started.
A flurry of
them.
Thanks, Denny, and welcome everyone. The campaign for Minnesota governor is coming down to the home stretch as candidates crisscross the state, making that final push to Election Day. Last week we heard from the Independence Party candidate. Tonight, Republican challenger Jeff Johnson is here. He's a former state lawmaker and a current Hennepin County commissioner. And welcome. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
And we should mention that we did ask the governor to be here, but he was unable to be here tonight. So we're pleased to have you here in the studio.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
For voters who may not know much about you, who is Jeff Johnson?
You know, a little background. I was born and raised in Detroit Lakes, Minnesota, just west of here a little ways. My wife's from Crookston. We went to college in Moorhead, so I'm a child of northwestern Minnesota. Spent a few years away, and now we've been in the Twin Cities for almost 20 years. We got 2 boys. Thor is in senior high, Rolf's in middle school in the public schools in Plymouth. I have spent most of my life actually in the private sector, both as an employee and as a self-employed business owner. And then also I served 6 years in the Minnesota House, and now the last 6 years on the Hennepin County Board.
So what motivated you to take the plunge and run for governor?
You know, I think we have a few big issues in Minnesota where we're heading in the wrong direction right now, and I think we've seen that accelerated the last couple of years in particular. And I think I have the experience and the personality to actually move those in the other direction. One is the job climate in this state and the private sector creation of good jobs and careers. One is K-12 education reform, and one is just making government work better for people.
We keep hearing the phrase comprehensive tax reform. Is tax reform needed in Minnesota?
Oh, it absolutely is. And when you look at what the fact that we have an uncompetitive tax climate in this state is doing, it's really very concerning. We have the highest, or one of the highest, underemployment rates that we've ever had in Minnesota. It's 53% according to the Dayton administration. That means half the people who are working in this state are overqualified for the job they're in and probably underpaid. And what that means is the private sector is not creating the good jobs, the careers that people are looking for.
But we do have low unemployment.
We do have low unemployment, but unfortunately we have high underemployment. And what that means is we're creating a lot of lower wage and part-time jobs. And some of that is the tax climate. There are other reasons for it, including over-regulation in certain areas, but the tax climate's part of that.
So besides taxes, what could the state do to make a better business climate?
Well, regulation is the other big piece. There are a few other smaller things, but we are so uncompetitive when it comes to our regulatory climate in this state. We for licensing or permitting, for example, it often will take people a year. I was in Fergus Falls a few weeks ago, and somebody said they had been waiting a year to get a permit to store grain. Why should it be difficult in a state like Minnesota to get a permit to store grain? And eventually they're going to give up on that and say, we'll go across the border and do it in North Dakota or another state. So, go ahead.
You want the state government audited. Tell us about that.
Well, what I want is the programs that taxpayers fund audited, because we have literally thousands and thousands of programs that are intended to help people, and we never measure them to see if they're actually doing that or not. So, my goal is to, on day one, start that audit of one program after another. We'll start with the human service programs because they're the easiest to measure. You can measure whether you're moving someone off of welfare to self-sufficiency. And those programs that can prove they're doing that, I think we ought to celebrate them. But the programs that we're funding because it makes us feel good as politicians, but they're actually not doing anything, and they exist, we've got to end those programs and put that money in a better place.
Do we need more money in the state, higher taxes?
Absolutely not. No, in fact, we've seen an increase in spending in the last 4 years from $30 billion to almost $40 billion. It's not a question of not spending enough. It's certainly not a question of not taking enough money from citizens. But we need to do a better job of measuring. We need to do a better job of prioritizing and put that money first into those things that I think most of us agree are important in the state.
Well, maybe our public television viewers haven't seen them, but every other station is just filled with
Yes.
political ads at this
Yes.
time of the year. Some of them are very pointed.
Yes.
A recent ad that you had claims that if Mark Dayton is reelected, PolyMet is dead. Speculative? Because PolyMet has kind of pushed back against that a little bit and said that that's not true.
Yeah, well, and we knew PolyMet would push back. They have to protect their company, and that doesn't surprise me at all. But I've said that many times before, that if Governor Dayton were going to be an advocate for PolyMet, he would tell people before the election. I can guarantee you that. That's kind of how it works. And the fact that he has been absolutely unwilling to make that statement that he will be an advocate after the election, I think it's pretty clear that he won't be. I mean, we've seen a 9-year process now, and I think it should be difficult to open a mine. I think having a difficult regulatory process is a good thing because the environment's important. But let's work through that process. Let's do it in a timely and fair manner rather than dragging our feet.
MNsure, the exchange heading into its second year of enrollment. As you look at that program, what's working, if anything, and what would you like to change?
Well, very little of it's working. And that's one of the reasons I have said that one of my first acts as governor is going to be to apply for a waiver, which Obamacare actually provides for you to get a waiver from Obamacare so that we can go back to the things that were working well before and then improve on that. We had, before MNsure, the best healthcare delivery system and insurance system in the country. Almost everybody recognized that, and we don't anymore. We've been pretty much sucked down to the national average. We've seen 140,000 Minnesotans be pushed off the insurance that they chose to have before. We see parents who can't get their babies on insurance for literally months because MNsure has been so disastrous. And it's not just a rotten website. It's actually hurting tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people in the state. And now we've learned that the rates are absolutely going to spike. I mean, the governor and his administration claim a 4.5% average increase, and every independent organization, not just Republicans, but everybody has recognized that that's not true. It's a lie.
Should surplus funds be returned to the taxpayer, a la Jesse Ventura?
Well, I think surplus funds should be returned, but I'm not sure a la Jesse Ventura. I think I've talked a lot about if we have a surplus, that is the time when you can really reform the tax code to make it work better for the state, make it lower and simpler and fairer.
He wrote checks out. You don't want to do that.
Well, I'm not sure that that's the best policy.
We only have about 30 seconds, but education, how should the state approach some of the challenges such as achievement gaps?
I talk about the achievement gap all the time. It's the worst in the country in Minnesota. And, part of it is that we have to start demanding actual results for the money we are spending in certain parts of the state. And as somebody who grew up in greater Minnesota, when I look at the disparity in K-12 funding in this state, it's really kind of sad. And the schools that tend to spend the most money have the worst results. It's time to say, if you want all that money, you got to at least show us that you're doing a good job. We're not seeing that right now.
All right. Well, Jeff Johnson, good luck as you head toward the home stretch.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming in tonight.
Thank you both.
Thank you
Appreciate it.
very much.
Now, let's dig into our news file archive for a look at what was making news 25 years ago this week.
It doesn't take a downpour like this to overwhelm the area's sewage system. Groundwater and as little as a quarter inch of rain can seep into sewer pipes, causing them to overflow. After a 2-inch rainfall in April, the Western Lake Superior Sanitary District had more wastewater than it could deal with.
Plant was running at a rate of about 38 million gallons a day, and we topped it out at about 150 million gallons a day within about an hour after the rain event. And that one caused us to overflow in the street just ahead of the plant. That was a reportable spill.
Old pipes may need to be replaced to prevent water seepage, and the facility may have to develop a system to separate rainwater from sewage. WLSSD estimates it will cost millions of dollars in at least 5 years to correct the problem of excess rainwater in the sewage system. Homeowners can help by sloping their yards so the rainwater doesn't seep into household sewers. And businesses can also look at their current sewage system. Williams says pretty soon they won't have any choice. Colleen Burns, KDLH News.
Well, St. Louis County is big. In fact, it's bigger than some states, and members of the St. Louis County Board often face big, expensive questions. When longtime board member Mike Forsman of Ely decided not to run for re-election, a spot opened up for a new commissioner. 2 candidates are vying for that open seat, and they join us now to talk about the campaign. Christina Hujanen of Tower is making her second run for the District 4 seat. And former State Representative Tom Rukavina of Pike Township came out of political retirement to run. I want to thank both of you for being here. I'm going to ask you both to tell us why you decided to run for the county board. I think, Christina, we'll start with you.
Well, I really wanted to be more of a service to the St. Louis County, to the District 4. I know that I have dedicated, proven leadership, and I know that I have the experience where it counts. And I think we really need more of a voice that represents us as the people who live in the area versus people who try to come in and, by special interests and certain parties and such. We want to have someone who represents and actually lives and works and does things in our area.
And Tom, your reason for running?
Well, Danny, and thank you for having us. I'm running because I want St. Louis County to be a great place for our children and grandchildren to live and raise a family, and I think I have the experience and record to do that. I was the chair of state government finance for 4 years and the Higher Education and Workforce Committee, so I managed billion-dollar budgets, and St. Louis County's got a $320 million budget. I think I can do things in these times of dwindling funds and greater demands to help the taxpayers squeeze that dollar out of that $320 million budget.
One of the things that needs some attention is transportation infrastructure. How would you go about prioritizing projects and paying for them?
Well, this question was asked of us by the Duluth News Tribune, and the taconite taxes, St. Louis County has 5 of the 6 mines and 5 of the 6 plants, and the taconite tax, since the new laws were changed and the new funding formulas were changed back in 1977, I believe it was, at that time they got 25 cents out of $1.25 a ton on taconite taxes, and today they're only getting 20 cents out of $2.60. I think the county deserves more taconite dollars, and I think when a mining company like, let's say, Inland Steel is going to dig up the road between Bowabic and the Pike, Sandy, and Barris area, that there should be a mechanism in which to fund that from the mining companies. That's the way we can do it without hitting the taxpayers on property taxes or doing these wheelage or sales taxes that they're talking about.
Christina?
Talking about the taconite tax and talking about working with the taxes that are coming on, that's actually a legislative issue. That's more done legislatively versus, in our county issues. And when you're talking about working with the legislators, I've got really good relationships with them. And that's what it's going to have to take to get a lot of this stuff done, is our relationships that we have with our legislators, with our officials, with our county workers and such. And when you have that good relationship, you're going to be able to get more accomplished. And I think that when it comes to the transportation and any of those issues, I think we need to work closer with our county workers, with the city workers, with all of the different collaborative agencies. We got to work together and try to figure it out together. We coming in, we don't have the answers, and we can't say that we're going to do a thing legislatively because we are county commissioners.
So, and again,
Well,
go ahead, Tom.
everything is done legislatively. The wheelage tax was passed by the legislature for the counties. The new sales tax was passed under the Republicans, I believe, while I was in there, for the counties to use. So we always work with, I mean, the legislature or the federal government mandates most of what the counties do. But in fact, you know, I can call up, I know the chair of the Senate Tax Committee, I know the chair of the House Tax Committee. I worked with all of the range delegation, and I know that you know, St. Louis County is not getting the amount of taconite taxes I don't believe that it should be getting.
So what needs immediate attention in the St. Louis County 4th District? Tom, we'll start with you.
Well, it's a huge district. Danny, you mentioned at the beginning of the program how big St. Louis County is. Take a look. I wish you had the map of County District 4. Christina and I both know that. We've been traveling around it, how huge it is. And roads is a big issue. It is a very big issue. I've heard about the Leto Road in Barris and the road up to Crane Lake and a number of other areas of bridges that need fixing that aren't going to be replaced. And we've got all this infrastructure that we need to maintain that isn't being maintained. And you know, roads and bridges that have been there for 100 years, I don't think it's fair to have them abandoned. So that's a big issue in our district. And there's a lot of, you know, issues for veterans and seniors, and there's a lot of demands at dwindling times. And like I've said before, I think I have the record and the experience to get something done in those areas.
Christina?
Well, of course, every time you talk to somebody, they always talk about the roads that they live by, the bridges and such, which are a big interest whenever anyone talks to you. But you know, there's so many more other things that are happening in our district. You know, for one thing, you know, we do not have a strong advocate for the women and the children and the seniors. And in our area, there are so many more seniors, you know, with the baby boom and the growing senior community and the veterans. And there's a lot of programs being cut because there's really, the money is being allocated in different ways where we really need to look at it. I mean, we have a lot of women programs, children programs where the families are suffering. We have a lot of the seniors who are having a hard time trying to find housing. We have such a shortage of housing up here, which I know that we just got budgeted for, you know, some more money coming from the state, but there are so many needs, and each community is different. You know, from being in all the different communities and being a part of the communities and being a proven leader in these communities, you hear firsthand of what's happening. Each community has its own issues, and that's something that really needs to be looked at because there's a lot of families that are really hurting in St. Louis County.
Mm-hmm. As you look at the county budget, are there areas where you see some efficiencies or places where you think maybe those resources should be shifted just from what you know of the budget at this point?
I know that there's some places that could be looked at and budgeted differently. There are some issues that are really taking a toll on young families, that with not having a county commissioner who is actually part of, you know, the younger families or a lot with the women and the children and such, they've been out of the area for so long, they don't understand, they forgot what it's like. And I think that instead of having some money gone one way, I think we need to really start looking at focusing it back onto some of the areas that we're lacking. And I think that if we actually take a look and talk to some of the areas that are being, what they say is, you know, overspent or non-budgeted enough, if we take a look and work with the people who are actually doing it day by day and actually talk to them, I think we can find ways to save money and stop some of the spending that we're doing. But I think we need to open up the communication and collaborate with all the agencies because everybody is struggling. They keep cutting and telling them to still do the same job, but you really need to work with everybody and figure out a way to make things, because there's a lot of hard times out there.
You both mentioned the elderly without getting specific as to what needs to be done for them. What does need to be done for the elderly of the 4th District?
Transportation. I know that a lot of them are having a hard time getting to and from their clinic appointments or such. The housing, being able to afford living, you know, with everything that's happening. You have the medical, which is really tough when they're having to make that step from being in their house to either assisted living or going into the nursing home. And that's a big jump. And there's really, you know, it's really hard. It's hard on the family. It's hard on the seniors.
Tom?
Well, you know, we have a very senior population, and you know, the social service budget, the human resources part of the budget is 28% now. The courts and the police and the attorneys and all of those are 32%, and public works is only 19%. It seems a little out of whack there for me. But you know, what we have to do, I think, is talk to our people in the trenches, whether they're at social services at the county or whether they're at public works. I think the workers themselves might have some ideas. And I don't know if that's, you know, been, that brain power has been utilized enough. And getting input from them, I think, is something that I would like to do to see, because whether the person's plowing the roads or listening to senior citizens or taking calls on children's services issues, I think those people know how maybe we can squeeze a little more out of the tax dollar and look at that budget to disperse that money in different ways.
Mm-hmm. Now, both of you have mentioned the size of the county and the diversity of interests in communities. There has been talk in the past, and I think you've even advocated in the past for splitting the county north and south. Is that still something that you think is a good idea?
I think it was a good idea, and you know, Denny being from Williams Addition in Virginia, you'd probably agree with me. But you know, that battle's been fought, and that battle is over. But it is a huge county, and it is a county that is totally dependent on mining. No one can deny that. Duluth, those ships go out of here, and part of that huge tonnage leaving this port is because of taconite taxes. And so our mining culture in all of St. Louis County is very important to this county. And you know, one of the things we have to look at is the new era of mining that's been proposed. Our taconite mines are healthy, but you know, that health can disappear in an instant. We've seen it happen. You know what happened, anyone. Your age group had to leave because the natural ore mines were shutting down, and you left, and you had a great career down here, but the taconite mines kind of started booming after you left. And so I think this county, even though as big as it is, you know, one of my main goals would be to certainly convince the commissioners from the Duluth area that we all have to work together to make sure that our main industry, because the University of Minnesota Duluth says that 38% of the entire gross regional product of this area is from mining, that we keep that mining industry as healthy as we can. So
let's
very
talk
important.
talk about working together a little bit, because the county board has been fairly contentious over the years. What do you think, Christina, that you bring that would help bring civility to that process and make it govern effectively?
Well, I'm going in, you know, with already a relationship with the county commissioners. You know, I've been to the meetings. I've been, you know, visiting. I've been to the township meetings. I've been to, you know, and I am not going in there with the attitude of, you can't handle him, I can. I'm going in there with an open mind, saying, you know what, we all have to work collaboratively. We have to work together, because that's the only way you're going to get things done. You can't go in there with an authoritative pound on your fist, yell to get something done. You need to listen and work with everybody, not just, you know, going in with your own agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as Jeff Johnson left here a little while ago, and you saw me joking with Jeff Johnson and his main guy, Greg Pepin, who was chief of staff for Steve Swigum. I always got along good with the Republicans. In fact, I passed a minimum wage increase under Steve Swigum was Speaker of the House. I was in the minority. They wouldn't hear my bill. I got it out to the House floor. I got the couple of Republicans to vote with me, and I got Tim Peleni to sign it without. He wanted to take tips away from waiters and waitresses, and I actually got him to sign the bill. So I know how to work. I know how to work with, you know, the other side of the aisle, and
Sure.
I can work with Frank Jewell, and we may have differences, but we
that
can be
note, we're going to
friends.
have to run. We could keep this going all night long,
Yes,
but
we
we do
could.
have
We
to
should.
run.
I'm having fun.
I thank you both, Tom and Christina, for being here tonight.
Thank you for having
Thanks
me.
for
It was
telling your
fun.
stories.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good
Thanks.
job.
Christina, thank you.
Thank you.
Tom?
Well, it's time now for the week's business news from Business North. People who set the bar high and work hard are destined to occasionally stumble. The trick is to get back up and keep going. That's what highly successful hedge fund manager Phil Falcone told a group of business leaders at a Duluth luncheon Wednesday sponsored by Compudine. It's okay to feel bad and to be embarrassed. What is crucial is that you understand what you did, what went wrong, and then figure out your next move. Falcone, a native of Chisholm, is the founder of Harbinger Capital Partners and a minority owner of the Minnesota Wild.
Enbridge needs the support of business and community leaders to ensure the petroleum pipeline company can serve North America's energy needs. Well, that's what Enbridge President and CEO Al Monaco said Thursday during his keynote address to the Duluth Area Chamber of Commerce annual meeting. Facing growing opposition to energy development, he said it is crucial that people remind government there's an important link between energy and everyday life. He said companies like Enbridge also must convince communities that their projects are safe and will protect the environment, not just talk about economic benefits.
A $12 million project to construct the new Northwest Wisconsin Cancer Center in Ashland has been modified. It originally was to be built on the Ashland Memorial Medical Center campus near the existing Essentia Health Clinic. Now the project will include a new Essentia clinic, and the total investment has grown to $21 million. After reviewing the project, Essentia officials decided that building a new clinic offered many advantages. Essentia and Ashland MMC are partners in the Cancer Center project. For more on these and other business stories, visit businessnorth.com.
If you have something to say about this week's program, call now, dial 218-788-2849 to leave a message, or send us an email to almanacnorth@wdse.org. You can also visit the WDSE website for updates on your favorite PBS shows, program schedules, and news and events here at the station. Well, wouldn't it be nice, Julie, if this great weather could hold on for a few more weeks? I'm dreaming.
You are dreaming. You gave us the forecast already at the beginning of the show.
Maybe snow flurries Tuesday. All right. Finally this evening, we leave you with video of the partial solar eclipse seen on Thursday and shot by our photographer, Ted Pillman. For Julie and the crew here at WDSE, I'm Dennis Anderson. Have a great weekend. Good night, everybody, and be kind.